operational planning and forecasting, right? So again, being able to drive out things at the entity or service line level, right? To be able to do it, by payer and to be accommodating different shifts in payers, right, over time. Again, as we see different dynamics across the country, right? Being able to quickly model those different patient volumes, to be able to understand what my gross revenue looks like, as well as detailed reimbursement logic, to be able to understand by payer, what is that net revenue going to look like, right? And then also being able to get into some of the other things like revenue deductions, charity, et cetera. Again, also being able to accommodate OpEx planning and forecasting, right? So, obviously being able to accommodate both the fixed and variable components of consumable items, things like your supplies, your oxygen, IV solutions, and so forth, to be able to do that based on a dollar per unit of service, so as your appropriate statistic is impacting that department, those costs shift appropriately. And then also from a manpower planning and forecasting, being able to accommodate, again, both fixed and variable staffing, leveraging different workload statistics, again, being able to derive what do I need from a job code level from a staffing standpoint based on different levels of volumes, right? And to be able to also calculate through what those salaries and wages and benefits look like, right? And then again, all of the reporting that goes along with it, to be able to develop, be able to understand quickly where you're at, leveraging interactive dashboards and reports as well. So with that quick overview, I'm going to go ahead and jump into the solution so that you can get a bit of an idea of what it looks like. So I've gone ahead, I've actually logged in here as administrator so that you can see full capabilities, but note, again, navigation is highly dependent on your role in the organization. So right now, as an administrator, I can see a lot of different things. For example, on the finance side, I can see the annual budget or strategic plan. From the aspect of a nurse manager, I can see annual budget or variance analysis. If I'm a non-clinical manager, I may have other selections as well. But I'm going to log out from an administrator and actually log back in as a nursing department manager so you can see and understand how that user experience changes, right? So Carol is a nursing manager, again, focused on patient care. She doesn't want a complex system that she has to spend a lot of time to learn and navigate through, right? She just wants it to support just the business processes that she's involved with and not having to go out and look at a lot of different places to find your dashboards and reports, right? So again, Carol's really focused here just on the annual budget and variance analysis. So again, I'll start here with the annual budget. And again, navigation is very simple and consistent within the Oracle Cloud Platform, right? So if I look down the sides here, I have different vertical tabs associated with different steps in my business process. In this case here, the annual budget, right? And again, and usually what I do is start out with a nice overview dashboard that kind of gives a nice glimpse into where things are at for, in this case, for the department, right? And then moving down to different topics like non-salary related, salary related, and then ultimately being able to review my reports. So again, it's very critical for the user interface to really facilitate the business process, right? A key aspect of a modern cloud platform is how it adapts to the user. And in this case, as a nursing department manager, I don't want to have to go to different places to find my dashboards and my reports. I want them all embedded within my business flow. And that's what you see here. Again, starting off with a nice high-level interactive dashboard, right? Again, I'm looking at my given facility, my department as well. And again, that's going to be driven off of my security. So depending on what departments or facilities I have access to, I can select that. I have different KPIs around things that I want to be able to monitor and quickly understand. as well as quick insights into where I am from an expense standpoint, right? Actually, bringing in a couple years of actual data, my current year budget, my projections, my current year or my next year budget, as well as different variances as well, to be able to make those comparisons. Also, we have interactive visualizations, right? That I can simply drill into to be able to understand different aspects. I can also change that visualization if it makes sense for me to be able to see and understand things in different ways, right? And again, down below, we have different glimpses into my staffing expenses, as well as my skill mix. So again, navigation is very simple. For this type, our users, we want to make sure again that they're not having to spend a lot of time learning the system. It should be intuitive and consistent, right? So let's move down here to the next step in the process, which is to look at my non-salary related expenses. And again, here I start out with a nice high-level overview dashboard, so I can see where I'm at, right? I can look at, for my given cost center, the last couple of years of actual, the current year budget, and then where am I from a projection standpoint, and then where is the next year budget, and all the associated variances as well. So to work through the budget, I simply can move down along the bottom, sort of like Excel tabs here. I've got an overview. I've got non-salary related expenses, and then I also have department stats, so I can kind of view some of the statistical drivers that I may want to leverage with my budget here. And again, looking at non-salary staffing, along the side here, we first have our expense driver. Again, that expense driver is set at typically by the finance administrator, and if I needed to view what that expense driver is, I can always right click and view the driver assumptions, right? And that's going to take me to that particular department where I can see what the different drivers are. So what are the drivers that are going to be impacting my revenue, my expenses, and staffing? And again, if I have the appropriate security, I can actually overwrite those as well. And then I have all of the different accounts that I need to be able to forecast. And some of these are fixed and some of these are variable, and you'll see how we incorporate that in a moment. We start out here with a couple of years of actual, right? So right now we're in FY21. So we have 1 year of prior and then our actual, both the dollars as well as the dollars per unit of service. So I can see how that is historically trending. If I move along the top, you can also see I have the current year budget for reference purposes. And then kind of the next few sections get into my projection of the current year, as well as the budget of the next year. And then also over here, we have the ability to input comments. So the way that this is designed is to be able to accommodate both fixed and variable expenses. If some accounts are less than 100% fixed or variable, we can also accommodate for that as well. And once that is set, again, typically by the finance administrator, I can go through and start to make some adjustments, right? And again, kind of talking through the projection first, one of the first things that I want to do is set a forecast methodology. Again, typically these are set by the finance administrator, and then different organizations may allow you to override these if necessary. So again, these are out of the box forecast methodologies that Oracle delivers. Basically things like my current year actual average that takes that current year actual and then allows me to apply an escalator and calculate out what that unit of service is going to look like if it's a variable expense, right? If it's fixed, it would just be a total number. And then being able to make adjustments here on both percentage as well as dollars, right? So again, projection all the way through my budget as well. So on the budget side, again, instead of a forecast methodology, I have a projection that I can drive out that budget year spread, as well as the ability to do percentage increases, dollar adjustments, and so forth. And then, obviously enter in commentary where appropriate, again, to make this as collaborative as possible. And then just moving down here, the next piece is around my salary related expenses. Again, nice high-level dashboard that will give me quick insights into where I'm at from a staffing standpoint. And then different views here that kind of break out, additional details. In this case here, a nice staffing expense summary, and then the ability to then plan both my variable and fixed staffing as well. So different staffing elements where I can come in, leverage if if it's a variable department, I can leverage those statistics to drive out, how many FTEs I need. If it's fixed, I can also do that based on just FTE inputs and average salaries as well. And then finally here, kind of the last step within this process is to look and review my reports. Again, it's important to note here that all of the dashboards, input templates, and reports are embedded directly in the navigation. You don't have to go and look and hunt for them. You're able to quickly navigate through your business process and be able to understand those. So again, this is just a nice expense summary that's showing where I'm at from an actual prior year standpoint, my current year projection, and then the budget. And then of course, nice visualization so I can kind of see over the year what my growth looks like from year to year. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to log off as Carol here and actually log back on here as a administrator so I can hit some other aspects of the solution. So the next piece I wanted to hit here is around the provider finance view, right? And again, I could go to my annual budget or my strategic plan. In this case, again, I want to focus here on my annual budget. And similarly, same type of a thing, right? Navigation's consistent based on my business process. I start out with high-level dashboards so I can evaluate where the business is. I can look at different KPIs that, whether again, it's a nice overview as well as a nice breakdown of revenue as well. In this case here, giving me KPIs around patient days, visits, and so forth, as well as a breakdown by payer. Finance is typically enrolled here in setting a lot of the different assumptions. Again, these are the things that we saw from a nurse manager standpoint, right? Where you can come in and you can default all of these different assumptions and have those pushed out in detail to all of the departments, right? And again, this is how you're able to drive out your projection to your budget very quickly, right? So by setting these assumptions that will automatically calculate those, right? Again, I can set different drivers, whether it's for revenue, expense, and staffing, right? Leveraging different statistics. I can even leverage statistics outside of my department. So if for some reason I need to be able to pull in another department statistic and use that, I can as well. And just moving on here along the bottom, we have different assumptions to drive out our budget as well as our projection, which includes pre-built forecast methodologies, as well as different types of spreads. And again, we also support the ability to have as many custom spreads as necessary as well. And the next piece gets into count variability. Again, being able to come in here and set variability by department, by account as necessary as well. So I want to move into a little of the revenue modeling next, right? And what we have this broken down into is by volumes and reimbursements. And notice here that I have two different options, right? I have entity level as well as service line. And I have that both for my volumes and my reimbursements. So we offer the flexibility to plan, at the level of detail that's appropriate for your organization, right? So if you say, hey, I typically like to do things at an entity payer level, that's great, right? Then you choose not to use the service line component or vice versa, right? So if, for example, here you prefer a service line level, that's great. You simply just don't need to use the other component, right? So it's really designed to present lots of different options. And then from there, your organization can continue to tailor those further. So again, I can start to make some adjustments here. I could do this from a volume standpoint, right? If you look at, right now I'm looking at my discharges here by subservice line. Again, looking at a couple years of actual data, my current year budget, my projection. Again, I have that forecast methodology that will drive out my projection, as well as the ability to add percentage and number increases. And then from the budget standpoint, being able to then, again, leverage a spread methodology, as well as the ability to have percentage and dollar increases, right? So if I choose to make entity level adjustments, then I can have everything driven off of a payer mix, right? Where I can specify different shifts up and down by payer. For example, here, if we think that, you know, Medicare is going to continue to rise, right? I can have that come up, and maybe that's going to be, you know, coming from a decrease in HMOs and Blue Cross, for example, right? So I can make adjustments at that payer level of detail, or if I choose to plan directly by payer, right? That's an option as well, right? So if you decide, hey, I don't want to, you know, plan based on a pure level of payer mix, I can also come in here and do it by individual payer, and specify also my average length of stay by payer as well. Again, leveraging that consistent format, you know, based on a couple years of actual and so forth. And again, this is kind of a view into the service line volumes. Again, if I choose not to do this by service line, again, similarly, I have kind of the same view, again, starting with my inpatient volumes, being able to plan for shifts in payer mix, or being able to plan directly volumes by payer, right? As well as being able to account for my average length of stay. So once I've gone through, I've done my volume planning, in this case, either by service line or by payer and entity. The next piece is from a reimbursement standpoint. And again, similarly, we're supporting different ways and methodologies to your reimbursements, whether again, it's at the entity level or the service line level. You know, you're able to have the flexibility to choose that. In this case here, I'm looking at my entity level reimbursements as well. You know, we're delivering out of the box certain methodologies for reimbursements, things like per case, per diem, percent of charge, and case rate. Again, it's highly configurable. You can easily add or subtract different methodologies. You can make changes to those methodologies based on your organization as well, right? So specifying here the different methodologies. If I move over to the actual reimbursement model, you can see a lot of the details here by payer. Again, you know, looking at Medicare, Medicaid, Blue Cross, for example, as well, right? Based on my reimbursement methodology, being able to calculate out, you know, my different assumptions, right? Also incorporating other revenue, right? So there's, you know, other things like, you know, cafeteria, parking lot income, et cetera, right? Being able to capture all of those nuances as well. So I initially showed you, you know, being able to plan expenses based on, you know, kind of a department manager view. But if you're an organization that does things from more of a centralized view, we offer views that facilitate that as well, right? A key differentiator is that there's no limitation to the number of views or templates or input models for any given model, right? So for example, here, you know, I'm looking at, you know, my non-staffing expenses here for one given account across multiple departments, right? If I wanted to plan by account for a given department, I can do that. So for example, here I'm focusing on 3 West, and then, you know, then looking at all of the different accounts specifically to 3 West. But again, if I'm more of a centralized model, I can come in and actually view this by cost center instead, right? So now, instead of having my my cost center as a selection up top, I have the account. And then going down, I have all of the different cost centers, right? So for example, here I select EPM Solutions or whatever that might be. I can very quickly drive out the budget across all of the different departments within an entity. And that allows me to be very efficient. If I need to make an adjustment, say, across an entire facility for, if I have particular knowledge of a certain account or something like that, and I want to be able to quickly make those different adjustments as well, right? And again, at any point, I can right click on here to view different assumptions, right? To be able to say, hey, what were those different driver assumptions, right? So I can come back at any point and be able to see what are those statistical drivers that are driving out the expenses and revenue as well. And then the kind of the next step here in the process is salary related. Again, similar structure is what you saw with the nurse manager, being able to now though view things at a department level as well, right? And then again, being able to break down both my variable staffing as well as my fixed staffing components. So, and again, for fixed here, I'm looking at my registered nurses. I have a staffing driver based on that assumption that I specified earlier, and then different assumptions, right, around what's my unit of service target, percentage of overtime, and then a breakdown of all the different pay codes here, both productive and non-productive, and those are going to then drive out here my wages, my hours, and my FTEs as well. And again, I have nice visualizations here to be able to quickly compare how things break down by job code. One thing to note is we support the ability to plan by job code or job code grouping or a combination of those as well. And then here, kind of the final step for finance is to review reports. In this case here is an income statement to be able to take a look at the financials for this given facility. So with that, I think I have about 4 minutes left. Check real quick here. It doesn't look like there are any questions. If you have any questions, please feel free to submit those questions. All right. Again, if there are no questions, I will I'll kind of wrap up here. Again, I just wanted to reiterate here, I think some of the key benefits of our healthcare planning solution. Again, first and foremost is getting those industry best practices out of the box to be able to quickly deploy those in your organization, right? The fact that we've designed this with the end user in mind, thinking about somebody's role in the organization to make navigation simple and easy. Again, there's nothing worse than a system that's complex for end users that they don't want to use it. It needs to be intuitive, and it needs to be able to support just the business processes that they're involved with. And that's really a hallmark of a modern cloud process. And then next is really around that faster time to value, right? Leveraging those pre-built best practices to quickly deploy the solution. And then also, really, key aspect is around the configurability of the solution. Everything that you get here is configurable, meaning that if you don't like the layout, you can change the layout. If you want to add content, you can add content. If you don't want to use specific content, you can use it as you can remove it as well. With that, I see there's a quick question here. Is there demo content available for this healthcare solution? There is not yet, but there will be soon. also see a question in the Q&A. Are you linking to HSF modeling as well? So from that, I assume you mean strategic modeling. Yes, we are. So I didn't cover strategic modeling in this session, but again, that's part of the delivered capability to be able to drive those long-range plans using strategic modeling and having that fully integrated back into the budget as well. All right. I don't see any other questions. All right. With that, I think we're at the end of the session. So thank you everyone for tuning in. I appreciate it. And if anyone needs any follow-ups, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. My email is jerry.jorgensen@oracle.com. Thank you.